Do you feel like this guy? Skinny? Do you want to look more like this guy? Of course you do. But in order to do that, you're going to need a bigger bench. And that can be hard to come by. And you may have found yourself in the land of no gains. And that's a terrible place to be. In this video, we're going to be talking about the three main issues I see people having when they're not making progress in their bench press. The first, training too heavy too often. The second, too much volume. And the third, major technique issues. All these things can lead to you not making long-term progress. The first and probably most common issue for me to see in the gym is people going too heavy too often. Whenever you're wondering how heavy you should be going week to week, you always want to keep in mind the idea of building your strength and not testing it. While there is going to come a time where you're going to want to test your strength, if we spend week after week trying to push ourselves into the 90%, 95, and 100% range of what our 1 rep max is, it really doesn't allow our body to recover, and the accumulated stress can often lead to injuries, and it doesn't really allow you to practice your form at all because you're too busy trying not to die. So a great way to not go too heavy too often is use the same weight for multiple reps and multiple sets, and once you've found a working weight that allows you to do that, just add 5 pounds each week. It's a really simple way to kind of self-regulate, and as long as you stay disciplined and say, this is the weight I'm working with today and I'm not going to work up to something heavier, then you'll be fine. The next thing is too much volume. Keeping frequency at twice a week, if your bench is under 315, is probably a good place to start. Doing 5 to 10 sets a week is fine for somebody who's a beginner. I would just say if you feel like you need to increase your volume because you're not making the progress you want, don't double your volume right away. If you're using 5 sets right now, do 6 or 7 to increase your volume. If you're doing 7, do 8 or 9. There's no reason to double your volume right away. And also, it's important to remember to have deload weeks. All of these things will allow you to recover from the training stress that you're giving your body, and that's going to allow you to make progress in the long run. Because if we're not recovering from the stress that we're accumulating in the gym, then we're not going to be able to recover, and we're not going to be able to adapt. And that's how we get stronger, that's how we get bigger. It's through those adaptations. So it's best to keep in mind just slow and steady progress, whether it comes to volume or intensity. So this is a really simple bench format for you guys to start with if you're kind of wondering where you should begin. On day 1, you're going to hit a 5x5, and as you can see, we're going to use 65% of whatever your 1 rep max is. So in this example, it's 275 pounds, and so 65% of that is 180 pounds. And like I said before, with the intensity aspect of it, we're just going to add 5 pounds each week. And the big advantage of starting out like this is that it's going to allow you to ingrain good technique. It's going to allow you to get in a good amount of repetitions, and that's going to create hypertrophy, and we're going to practice that technique so that it becomes muscle memory, so that you really don't have to think about it, because once we move into the heavier weights, that's really not a good time to try and change your technique, because like I said, you're going to be too busy just trying to get the bar up. So even though at first this might feel a little bit too easy, or for some people way too easy, if you are just starting out, I think it's a good way to go, because you can accumulate the repetitions and practice that technique. Day 2, as you can see, is a dumbbell shoulder press. And each week you're just going to keep with the same weight, and you're going to increase your repetitions by 1 to 2 reps each week. And I really prefer the dumbbell shoulder press because it allows you to go through a different plane of motion than the bench press, and it allows you to get some single arm work in. And I think those two things combined is going to keep your shoulders a little bit healthier in the long run if we're going through different planes of motion and getting in a good amount of single arm work. Most people have one arm that's significantly stronger than the other, at least I know I do. So I always try and keep single arm work stuff in there. It's important to remember that this might feel a little bit like you're going through the motions, but when you are first starting out, that is okay. After the 6 weeks is over, feel free to bump up the weights, do some heavy triples, something like that. But at least for this 6 weeks, I think it's good to go through the motions. I want the weight to be challenging, but really take that time to build yourself up and get that technique ingrained. When it comes to technique, there's 2 things we're really going to try and do. We're going to try and build a foundation for us to press off of, because if the muscles in our back are loose, we're going to be pressing into the bar and we're going to be losing energy that could be going into the bar out of our back muscles because they're loose. And also, it's going to help stabilize the shoulder joint, which is extremely mobile. And what tends to happen is if we have our shoulders going up and down a lot, with enough sets and enough repetitions at a high enough weight, it seems to lead to shoulder issues. So it's best to have those shoulders as stable as possible. And coming up, there's going to be some illustrations. But real quick, you're going to want to pinch your shoulder blades together, and you're going to want to pull your butt towards your shoulders. It says hips, but that's a typo. You're going to want to slide your butt on the bench towards your shoulders. That's going to help you get a lower back arch and flex your lats hard. This is just an illustration of what I'm talking about. When you pull your shoulder blades back and try and imagine like you're trying to pinch a pencil in between your shoulder blades, that makes your back muscles more rigid, and it helps stabilize the shoulder joint like we talked about. So that's kind of how you can start to set that foundation for you to have a good bench press off of. The second thing you're going to want to do is scoot your butt towards your shoulders. It does not have to be as extreme of an arch as you see in the left side illustration. The right side illustration is fine. But the purpose of this is if we're maintaining rigidity in our lower body and we're keeping our lower back arched and pretty tight, that's going to help us maintain the arch in our upper back. And that's the most important thing, is the upper back arch is what allows us to stay stable in our bench press and allow us to maintain that pinching of our shoulder blades like we talked about, which is going to make that upper back arch. Thanks for watching, guys. If you like the video, subscribe, follow us on Instagram, and if you're looking for coaching, go ahead and check out our website, link in the description. Thanks very much, and check you next time.